Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 55 for the 14th of Shevat in a leap year. And today we're beginning a new chapter, chapter 21, but it's a continuation of the ideas that we've been discussing. So if you remember a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about the idea of speech and the idea of human speech and understanding God and understanding how God keeps the world in existence through understanding human speech, because we know that God created the world through speech. He created it through the 10 sayings at the beginning of utterances, otherwise known as in the beginning of creation, and he continues to keep it in existence through his speech. And we said that one way of understanding that is by looking at our speech and by looking at the fact that our speech is totally and utterly dependent upon us and does not have any existence of its own other than us. And we said that this is similar to understanding how God's speech, namely the world, which is the reality underlying all of creation, is 100% dependent on God for its existence and vitality. Today, we're going to understand how, while this is true in the sense that this can help us understand God's speech, it's not the same thing. And we should not make the mistake that we are God or that we are really like God in any way. And we'll actually see that there's a profound difference between our speech and between God's speech. So let's begin. So, says the Alter Rebbe, the attributes of God are not like the attributes of flesh and blood man. Because when a man speaks, then it seems as if his speech is something in its own right, something which is separate from the 10 aspects of the person's soul. So I'll just interject here. For example, a person could be an actor in a play, right? And or a person could, God forbid, lie. So there are times when a person can speak and say things that are not in sync with their actual soul, with really who they are. I'll go back to the text now. So with God, on the other hand, his speech is not separate from him, God forbid, because there is nothing separate from him. Every single corner of the world is totally just filled with him. And so thus his speech is not like our speech, God forbid. And then in brackets, the Alter Rebbe adds, and he says that just like his thought is not like our thought. As it says, and here he brings a quotation, he says, Ki lo machshavotay machshavotechem. That's taken from Yeshayahu, chapter 55, verse 8, where it literally means, my thoughts are not your thoughts. And then in verse 9 of Yeshayahu, it says, Ken gavhu drachai midrachechem. So have my ways ascended higher than your ways. And that's the end of, etc. So that's the end of the bracket. So meaning to say that, God's thoughts not only are God's speech unlike our speech, God's thoughts are also not like our thoughts. And so this is why when we talk about God speaking, this is just by way of metaphor. It's not the same speech that we understand speech. So the way that, why is it what is the metaphorical significance? How is it a metaphor? So if we break it down, we see that what is lower speech in a man? What is it when we speak? What are we doing exactly? We are revealing to the listeners what is concealed within our thoughts. So, again, so this is me interjecting here just to talk about, so when a person lies, God forbid, or if a person is acting in a play, they may not be reflecting their actual thoughts, but they are manifesting what they want the audience to hear. They are manifesting what they want people to think is their inner thoughts. So So too above, when God speaks, when his light goes out and the vitality comes out of him from from hiddenness to revelation, to create all of the worlds and to vivify them, this is called speech too. And specifically, what is the speech? The speech is the 10 utterances from which the world was created. And not only are the 10 utterances by which God creates the world called God's speech, but also the entire Torah, the Tanakh, the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, that the Nevi'im, were able to perceive through their prophecies. This is also called God's speech. So that's the conclusion of today's Tanya. So just to give a little bit of a recap, is the basic message that we're getting here is that when we say that God's speech, our speech, and understanding how our speech works and everything and God's speech, we must understand that while it's a good metaphor to help us understand God's speech, that's all it is. It is just a metaphor. So our speech is ultimately not the same thing as God's speech at all. It's actually a totally different thing. But the reason why we use it as a metaphor is because it serves a similar purpose. So when a person speaks, what they're doing is they are using the speech as a tool to manifest their hidden thoughts to whoever it is that they're speaking to their audience. So similarly, when God creates the world through his speech, which is how he creates the world, what he's doing is this is a manifestation of his light, which was concealed and hidden within him before. And now it has become revealed through this speech, quote unquote, of God's. But the way that it's different is that when a person speaks, it does appear as if it's two separate things. It's like, there's the person and then there's their speech. There's what I'm saying, there's me right now is to read, and then there's my podcast, me talking. It's not, you wouldn't say they're exactly the same thing, right? You can listen to the podcast and I'm not even in the room. I'm not, maybe I'm sleeping while you're listening to this. I don't know. But for God, that's not the case. For God, him and his speech are not separate, and they're actually 100% intertwined, and they don't actually have any separation between the two at all. So I hope that was clear, and we're going to continue this tomorrow. I'll speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.